Before we get into the video, remember two things in life. Number one, community. It's not all about people that live together. Community is about people that care about each other, and that's needed more than ever in the communities you need in. Meet your neighbors. Number two, luck is where opportunity meets preparation. Making a success out of college these days is very difficult because of the high cost and the imbalance of supply and demand. College in America has been sold and oversold as the key to a better future, but something has gone very wrong in the last few decades. Peter Thiel, Mr. PayPal founder, Ivory Tower, in 2014 said 60 years ago, a new college graduate threw their mortarboard in the air and had 3 job offers before it hit the ground. Those were the good old days. So college in America doesn't work that way anymore, unfortunately. The parents, I think, are at the heart of the problem on what's going on right now. They send kids to college who have no business academically being there at all. They don't save money for the students' college. They don't do their due diligence, doing their homework, and they don't start planning early enough. They delegate far too much of the planning to their student. So in America, we don't need more people going to college. There's a lot of people that say that. Most of those who are attending are just wasting their time and money. However, with that said, I want to point out some reasons why it's not a good idea to go to college and some reasons for college. I'm not one way or the other. In some instances, college is a good thing. In some instances, it's not. It's not that black and white. So why it's not a good idea, let's start with that. Why it's not a good idea, affordability. Look at this chart showing the cost of college compared to everyday living expenses. Look at books, text, cost of college compared to everyday living expenses. It's insane. Tuition is up 200% in 20 years. 50 years ago, a student could earn enough money in 3 weeks to pay their tuition. Today, that takes 6 months. So, bottom line, college doesn't work the way it's used to. As I said, tuition's up 200% in the past 20 years. Wages are flat. The rigors of a bachelor's degree has diminished, with 45% of high school grads articulating the market, is saturated. These graphs clearly show that, actual wages right now have not increased in 4 decades, while employers' profits have increased tremendously. Those CEOs getting those big time golden parachutes. Wages for the majority of the population have actually been slowing when you eliminate the supervisory personnel from the data I looked at. The average family is losing ground financially right now. So what does that create? Well, to continue to live the American dream, the only alternative of wage-starved middle-class Americans is to what? Is to borrow. And the rich corporations who made all that money off his or her labor and with generous tax cuts is now willing to loan him or her the money because they have plenty to throw around. So with a mortgage, and credit card debt, and car payments burdening the parents, the children of the middle class are forced into student loans. We're going to pay all those off right now with the current administration. Yet more debt running right down the family line. Just keeps going. So there is a huge imbalance of supply, grads right now, and demand suitable jobs. It's not like the past. Half of those articulating just aren't book smart enough to do meaningful college work. Of the 60% who manage to graduate with some degree or another, the prospective employers will sort that out, leaving many graduates working at In-N-Out Burger. And it's going on right now. In the good old days, when JFK was president, only 7% of high school graduates went on to college. The unwritten rule of thumb was the academic top 10%, roughly. That translated to an IQ, and they actually measured this, of 120. So if you managed to graduate, you would be, like I said, you could throw your motherboard in the air and before it hit the ground, you would be scooped up for a well-paying professional job, maybe in the six figures. So your major wasn't that important. There was a lot more demand, suitable jobs than supply grads. So parents and enterprising students took notice. Going to college became the thing to do. By the time moving forward, Clinton was president, 34% of high school graduates were matriculating. So in the Midwest, where I'm from, run-of-the-mill local high school, roughly sends 80% of their graduates to college. 80%. The parents think that's great, but nobody pays attention to whether or not there is any gainful outcome of it. And yes, too many kids, many of them marginal academically, are going to four-year colleges. There aren't anywhere near enough suitable jobs for the army of high school graduates. 40% matriculating. Half of all grads end up, underemployed or unemployed. A record 25% minimum wage jobs are held by college graduates. So while college may not be dead, it is seriously wounded right now. The data shows that most of those attending college today are not being well served. They're not being well served. It has just gotten way too difficult to make a four-year college education pay off. The average American family just isn't financially literate enough to comprehend that, except for a few four-year college as an investment is, problematical at best. Families don't understand the risk involved and give planning for college about the same level of attention as planning a family picnic at the local state park. So you do see that. In many ways, it is hard to blame them, though. In the good old days, 40, 50 years ago, college was the traditional path to financial success. If you graduated with any kind of degree, with any GPA, you could waltz out of the college gates straight into a well-paying entry-level corporate job, hands down. So the pendulum, has collapsed. College in America doesn't work nearly like that anymore. The college experience has been devalued 100% by grade inflation, cost inflation, and college is being forced into remedial education because of the poor quality of public high schools. So the U.S. has the best colleges and the worst public schools in the developed world. If you look at California, Proposition 13 in California was a disaster, but worse is not being able to instantly and permanently get rid of violent students and incompetent teachers. Horrible. The U.S. lacks a vocational system such that exists in Switzerland, where students learn practical skills. This is so important. In Switzerland, they learn practical skills, discipline, a work ethic, what teamwork is, and respect. We don't do that anymore. The current public school system sends kids to college and the workforce who have no skills, no discipline, no respect, and no ability to learn. As soon as the 99% are openly attacking the legitimacy of the 1%, you can be sure there are an army of pseudo-intellectuals will appear to legitimize class inequality and argue that these people are better and more deserving. So the worst, if you look at another country I looked at, the worst mistake made under the 20 years of Brazilian military dictatorship was to plow money into grandiose construction projects instead of education, resulting in 50% illiteracy. And if we look at the United States, the worst mistake the U.S. made is diverting funds into building over 100 military bases abroad. We're everywhere. And countless military interventions. We're in everyone's business instead of funding public schools and subsidizing higher education. When I was in Saudi Arabia, and I'm going back, what this gentleman was telling me about the military is unbelievable. So here are some factors that could make college an investment problematical. I think it's a problem. Number one, a society obsessed with the idea of the four-year college degree with almost no regard for cost of outcomes. This is what I call, the college mania effect. Wildly escalating college cost. It's insane. You have to consider the stagnation of wages right now. A vast imbalance of supply graduates and demand suitable jobs. There just aren't those six-figure jobs like they used to be. And the easy availability of government-backed loans get those people into debt. I think there's rapid overborrowing fueled by the financial illiteracy, the illiteracy of the parents and students who are just educated enough and they're getting taken advantage. So why is college a good idea? We have always had colleges, and there are a lot of jobs that we need that require college. So to say otherwise is utterly ridiculous, okay? The single most important advantage the U.S. has is its system of colleges and universities. 80% of all the good universities in the world are here in the United States. And if the formula was so easy to copy, we would have Stanfords in Saudi Arabia or India or Brazil. That is why Saudi Arabia mother and fathers send their kids to Oxford or Stanford. Of course, there's a big difference between, college is worth it for some people and college is worth it for all people. We need people in professions where college is necessary, but we also need people in professions, some of them quite highly paid, like white-collar jobs, whereas, most certainly not needed. You don't need college. So said another way, you want to be a lawyer, you want to be a doctor, you want to be an engineer, you want to be a CIA officer, FBI officer, you're going to need a degree. Many six-figure sales jobs require a degree. So for those capable of benefiting from the college experience and contributing to it, it is not just a place to pick up information. This is so important to me. The most important things about the college experience is learning how to learn, a lifelong relationship to continuing education. Number 3 is huge, networking. You go to that Ivy League school to network. Number 4, compromise and collaboration, meeting people and contributing to something more than enduring, oneself. Getting those relationships with people and connections. So if Americans want to be serious about getting an education that is worth what they pay for, they can, number 1, choose majors with better job prospects, those liberal arts degrees. Actually plan and network to position themselves for the future. Live at home instead of going away with relatives. Attend public colleges and universities in the beginning. See if it's right for you, then transfer. Attend a community college. There's some good community colleges out there and programs. Spend less, be more frugal. We love to spend and show off in this country, and apply for financial aid and scholarships. They're plentiful out there. So these are all things that ordinary people can do in their own lives to increase the value of the college experience. For ages now, the private sector, job markets, employers have been loudly sending signals that in terms of commanding wages and general, employability, degrees may as well be printed on the toilet paper, their relative value and utility. There's an enormous mismatch, at least between the financial value of a degree and the number of degree holders. So, what's the why? What's the why? Why do kids keep going to college? Because, higher education, starting with your high school counselor, your parents' friends, your parents, is very well oiled and a profitable industry in the United States, often regardless of the value delivered. There are entire organizations dedicated to making Americans think that college is a good financial investment. Americans also don't want to own up to the fact that institutions they believed in the past to be pathways, to opportunity are more or less right now cannibalistic opportunities. Things have changed. Employers aren't stupid. It's in their interest to maximize their own advantage, and so they use the fact that Americans are generally illogical free spenders about college to their advantage. They don't generally pay more for degree holders because they don't have to. So who's going to hold them accountable for it, right? There are tons of desperate other people with degrees domestically that are willing to work for peanuts. And if there aren't, the skilled, visa programs give them plenty of access otherwise. Doesn't seem fair, does it? Don't like it? Think it's a social negative? Tough luck. It's somebody else's problem, right? So the only American students who should reasonably attend college are those that can do, in my opinion, so without borrowing money. Can't borrow money, These are the students who receive mostly full or full ride scholarships, or those who come from families that can easily and painlessly burn cash on the cost. Otherwise, the decision is likely to be a very risky and unrewarding roll of the dice. So it isn't that too many kids attend college, it's that they spend too much to do it and end up with skills that they are unable to leverage later in life. American students, their parents included, are willing to spend almost anything on the priceless college experience. They, major in what they love, which is great, but don't take the time to make their education truly useful to them after college. Americans are willing to spend, and I see it, an inordinate amount on higher education, which gives the universities leeway to charge ever increasing tuition that's going up every year. The truth of the matter is that most people never make a budget and ask themselves if all the money they're spending is really worth it. Not to say that education isn't important. In the future of our economy, and education will become more important than ever. Okay? Think about artificial intelligence. You need to up your game. The jobs in the middle are leaving without industrial workforce to support them. There will always be opportunities for the adventurers to go to the next boom town and strike it big, even without a degree. But for those of us who'd rather live a more settled life overall, as America continues to shed the industrial jobs, which are shipping offshore, the value of an advanced education will only increase, in my opinion. So young people have bought into the lie that they need to go to college overall. But I'm just saying, here's the key takeaway. Trade schools should be marketed to people as an option in high school, a lot more than it is now. There are working class jobs that pay just as much as the white collar ones, and also just as creative. There is no economy in the world that can support 70% of people working in professions requiring college degrees. This is a cultural issue for millennials and the Generation Zers, and it really should be addressed more than it is right now, starting very early on. It is also an economic problem. The working class jobs are being completely ignored by the government right now in favor of Silicon Valley. We need to bring industry back, and we need people to work in them. It's a nice balance there. We're shipping all our jobs offshore. So, right now, what's going on in the country, welcome to vulture capitalism. Ladies and gentlemen, the media and the government have been trying to tell people for the last 30 years or so that college is the natural thing to do after high school, and the only way to succeed. This has led to an aging blue-collar workforce, student debt, and a lot of useless degrees. In 2016, about 70% of high school graduates enrolled in community or four-year colleges. 70%. The college degree has been seriously watered down, in my opinion. In the good old days, if you graduated college, employers assumed you were reasonably smart. Today, they search through stacks of resumes, sorting out the wheat from the chaff. In today's job market, a high school diploma isn't going to get you very far. You're going to need some form of post-secondary education, whether you go to trade school or start your own business like Jeff Bezos. However, way too many school graduates opt for college, in my opinion. And the key takeaway is there's other options out there that should be discussed with your high school counselor. I have a friend who's one of my vendors who's got 5 trucks, or 6 now. He's a plumber. He makes almost $500,000 a year. Okay? So those are things you just need to consider. I'm not saying, tongue in cheek in the video title, but a lot of people are like, oh, it's a scam. But if you have your heart set on and you have the means and you want to be an engineer, you want to work at MIT as a professor, you want to be a CIA officer, you want to be a police officer, you can come from the military and not go to college, but there are certain professions, bottom line, even high-end sales jobs that require a college degree. And if you want to go that road, you're going to have to get the paper. But the key takeaway is vocational trades are an important part of this country. Bringing manufacturing back instead of shipping it off. We're not doing that. And there are phenomenal jobs in those sectors in the trade school path that pay 6 figures. And it's an option. Or, you can be an entrepreneur and start your own businesses like a lot of people have done. The richest people in the world didn't go to college. But I would argue that it just depends what you want to do in the career path, and college is a good thing, and also the right institution. A lot of institutions have been watered down. The Ivy League experience is phenomenal for networking and establishing those collaborations with students you meet and their families that have generational wealth. And you get into these schools and you network, and that's why a lot of people go, and so, and you get a job. But the overall college experience and the teaching experience with a lot of things that have been put into these curriculums, I'm not a fan of. And we need to get back to what's really important in these curriculums for learning and teaching kids the right skill sets to be successful in life, not just about book smarts, but teamwork and collaborating. And these things are important in our public schools.